90 damage in one turn. Let's go! Hello, ma'am, sir. Welcome to the first episode of the Building the 32 series. Since this is our opening to the series, and this channel is RedManaMadness, why don't we start with mono red? Makes sense, right? In this series of videos, I took the challenge upon myself to build an EDH deck for each color combinations in Magic the Gathering. Along with that, I will be showing a deck tech and walkthrough of my thought process of the deck. I will also mention some of the menacing combos I noticed when playing the deck. And I have been in your position before, watching deck techs and getting disappointed because I don't have the same cards. So worry not, I will also be discussing how you will build a deck, enumerating types of cards you need to put to make your deck work. Without further ado, let's meet our star, shall we? Wait! Please check out the RedManaMadness eBay store for all your MTG needs. Our commander for our mono red deck is Imodane, the Pyrohammer.
The realm needs a ruler, not a boy playing king.
She is a 4/4 legendary human knight for 2 red with an ability that reads, whenever an instant or sorcery you control that targets only a single creature deals damage to that creature, Imodane deals that much damage to each opponent. The moment Imodane was pulled for Wilds of Eldraine as a spell-slinger or burn player, I knew she was my mono red commander. The gameplay strategy for this deck is very simple and straightforward. You get Imodane out as soon as possible, and as red goes, you just sling some spells and burn some faces. Then we win! In this deck, burn spells are our bread and butter. We need them to trigger Imodane and win. I have put my burn spells in different categories, and the first one is Standard Burn. These cards are just pure burn spells with no nonsense. I've put the classic Lightning Bolt. Then we have Flame Slash. Same cost as Lightning Bolt, but it's 4 damage instead of 3. The only difference is that it's in sorcery speed. Then we have a massive jump in damage with Shivan Meteor. 5 mana for 13 damage. Yes, please. Listen, I haven't drawn or used Shivan Meteor in any of my games before, but I don't think I'll be suspending that card. I'd rather pay the full cost so that my opponents won't see what's coming. Next up, we have Burn Plus. These are burn spells that can deal more when the situation is right. I've put Brimstone Volley in there because for sure a creature will be dying on our turn. Then we have Exquisite Firecraft. This is a spell-slinger deck. We will surely be having more than 2 instants and sorcerers in our graveyard. So that will be uncounterable 4 damage for us. Then we have Galvanic Blast. With the way I built this deck, I don't think it won't be hard to trigger Metalcraft. Now we dig into Utility Burn. These are burn spells that are either versatile or can give you more value rather than just dealing damage. I've put Fire Prophecy and Volcanic Spite in the deck. They're the same card, to be honest, but the difference is that Spite can target more things, but let's be honest, targeting creatures is the only thing we care about. Apart from dealing 3, it can also get rid of a card you don't want and draw a new one. Up next, we have Nahir's Warcrafting. It's basically 5 damage that lets us impulse draw if we have, or if we deal, excessive damage. Then we have my favorite in this category, which is Mizzium Mortars. It's very versatile. You can make it either a targeted spell or some sort of a board wipe. I've used it as a board wipe before when my opponents had a lot of creatures while I had an empty board. Sad. Lastly, we have Abrade and Shatter the Source. Again, same thing. Deals damage and can destroy an artifact if you choose to. The only thing separating them is that Shatter can deal double of what Abrade can, and Shatter is 3 times more expensive, but don't worry because it has Convoke. Burn X. These are burn spells that we can just dump a lot of mana into just to finish off the game. Banefire can be uncounterable. Meteor Swarm, although not really an X spell, we can just pay a total of 4 mana for 8 damage. Hilarious. Then we have Electro Dominance, basically giving us a free spell afterwards, and Stone Splitter Bolt. It's very easy to bargain in this deck, so definitely we will be getting twice than what we paid for. The last category for burn spells is Variable Burn. These are burn spells where their damage can vary depending on what you have. I put Blades of the Thunder Raptor and Frantic Firebolt, where their damage varies on how much instants and sorceries you have in your graveyard. As a spell-slinger deck, we will definitely be having a lot of them in the graveyard. The next one is just hilarious, Impact Resonance. It deals damage equal to the greatest damage you've dealt. Like, if you just deal 15 damage before casting it, you can deal another 15. It's just crazy. Lastly, we have Scred, the reason why we run Snowlands in this deck. The later we are in the game, the scarier this card gets. Now, we have our burn spells, but how do we further enhance our chances of winning? We go to our sports. First up, we have our Friendly Fire, Brash Taunter, and Stuffy Doll. Basically the same card, but Stuffy Doll chooses an opponent when it comes into play, while you can just choose whoever you want with Brash Taunter as you go. Imodane's ability does not say we can only target our opponent's creatures, we can also target our own, so we just target them with our burn spells, Imodane triggers, and some unlucky opponent gets another batch of damage. Then we have the more the merrier. These just lets us play more spells. Arcane Bombardment lets us cast spells we've cast before, while Chandra copies our first instance or sorcery. As a cherry on top, Chandra also gives us mana. Our amplifiers can just make us more threatening on the table. We have Torbran for +2, Soultheme, Dictate of the Twin Gods, and Furnace of the Wrath as our damage doublers, and Fiery Emancipation and City on Fire are our triplers. Although I do need to say be careful of the last 4 I mentioned, since they specifically say player, so it's gonna be 2-way street on damage. Plan B, our backup plan if plan A goes south. Past In Flames can let us cast the spells we use due to flashback, and it also has flashback, so we can use it the next turn as well. I've considered putting Underworld Breach, but in my games with Imodane, I never had a huge graveyard to escape some spells. I guess the best I could do is to escape 1, maybe 2 spells with it. So yeah, I didn't really put it. Then we have Toralf, basically giving our burn spells Trample, Fiery Emancipation, and Gutter Snipe, which can help us chip away our opponent's life points while we cast some spells. And finally, our main boy, Young Peasy, which can create some bodies while we sling some spells left and right. Now we have our burn spells and the cards to make it better, but how do we make sure we get them? Let's go to card draw. Red isn't really a card draw color unlike blue, but we make the most of what we have by using the typical ones. Firstly, we have Thrill of Possibility and Witch's Mark. The same card, discard 1, draw 2. However, Witch's Mark can create a Wicked Roll token, and it's a sorcery instead of an instant. Then we also have Faithless Looting, a classic card draw spells in red, draw 2, discard 2. And we can also use it again with flashback. Impulse draws. We have Ren's Resolve and Reckless Impulse, basically the same card, exile 2, and you can play it until the end of it next turn. Then we have Light Up the Stage, also the same as the previous 2, but 1 mana more expensive, but if you sequence it right, it can be 1 mana less expensive. Lastly, we have Verge of Courage. It can be a burn spell itself, and it can let us impulse draw for the amount of damage we dealt. Treasures, and you draw 2 cards. These are basically spells that let us discard a card and draw 2 and create 2 treasures. We have Big Score, Unexpected Windfall, Pirate's Pillage, and Seized Spoils, which all have the same effect. Their casting speeds are just the only thing that separates them. The last category for card draws is our Wheel and Wheel-like effect. So firstly, we have Wheel of Misfortune, basically a Wheel of Fortune light. I would have put Wheel of Fortune instead of Misfortune if only I could afford it. So guys, please support us so I can buy a copy of Wheel of Fortune. Shameless plug right there. Then we have Valakut Awakening, basically my favorite red card draw spell. It can get rid of the bad cards in my hand and replace it with new ones, and it comes with a bonus. Did I mention that Valakut Awakening can also be a land if we get mana screwed? Also, we have Into the Fire. I've put it in due to the effect it shares with Valakut Awakening. I don't think I'll ever be using that first mode, since I only care about single targeted burn spells. But my view can change though, depending on the situation. We talked big game about Imodane being out, but once you're threatening enough, your opponents will be wanting to unalive Imodane immediately, so we need to protect. Firstly, we fashion Imodane with some fine shoes like Swiftfoot boots or lightning greaves. Then we further protect her with Deflecting Swat, or Anthony would like to call it
Deflective Swat.
Sorry Anthony, come again?
Deflective Swat.
Just in case something goes wrong. I know my protection spells are a bit on the low end, but I don't think Imodane will be a threat for long since I'm planning to win as fast as possible. I've mentioned casting a lot of spells and supports, but how do we get there sooner? we have our mana accelerants. Firstly, we have our classic mana rocks, typical ones like Soul Ring, Arcane Signet, and Felwar Stone. The next two are not technically mana rocks, but it does accelerate our mana. Extraplanar Lens to double up our mana, and Ruby Medallion, discounting our spells. Next, we have Mana Rocks Plus, basically mana rocks that give us more. I've put in Commander Sphere so that I can draw card in the late game. I did consider putting Mind Stone over the Sphere, but I prioritized getting color instead of colorless. On top of that, Sphere can let me tap it for mana first, then sack it for card draw, unlike Mind Stone where I have to choose whether I tap it for mana or tap it for card draw. Then we have Throne of Eldraine, very good card, worth it for 5 mana since it can let us tap for 4 and let us draw 3. Separately, of course. Yeah, Pyromancer Goggles, you're not gonna believe me if I told you this card made me win a game. So here it goes. The guy before me drew 20 cards in his turn while removing his hand size limit, and I had Jeska's Will in my hand. So when it went to my turn, I cast Jeska's Will with the goggles, and I got 40 mana in total. Weirdly enough, with the 20 cards that guy had in his hand, he didn't have a counter, so I just won the game inevitably. To further get more mana, we need some ritual effects. I've put Seething Song and Mana Geyser, classic ones. Jeska's Will, like I said before, you can also let us impulse draw. Neheb, giving us mana equal to the life our opponents lost. Urabrask, Steamkin, and Bergi, just giving us mana as we cast a bunch of spells. Lastly, we have Bruno Mars. Why Bruno Mars? Because they are our treasure makers. Stormkill and Artist giving us treasures as we cast instants and sorceries. Then we have the very popular Dockside Extortionist, or as Anthony would like to call it,
Dorkside? Dork. Oh, Christ.
need I say more? Finally, we go to our land base. I've just put 6 utility lands. To this day, I still don't know why I've put Reliquary Tower in this deck. It's not like I had turns in a game where I had more than 7 cards in hand. Maybe I'll swap this out in the future. Mirren Landscape is such a good card for monocolor deck. Smoldering Crater and Autonomous Furnace are just lands that can give us card draw. Fine Rock Knoll, obviously, we will definitely be hitting that 7 damage, no doubt about that. Lastly, Nykthos, because why not? I have a bunch of red pips in the deck. For our basic lands, it's just going to be 24 snow-covered mountains just because of Scred. Right, that is the deck. Let's go to our menacing combo. Like I said, this is a very straightforward deck. To be menacing, all you'll need is Imodane out with a few burn spells in hand and make sure you have as much mana possible. Pair that with any of the 6 amplifiers we have, then you'll be finishing off a game quickly. Would you like to build this deck? Here's what you'll need. Single targeted burn spells, make sure they can target creatures. Not only that, make sure they're versatile enough to give you more value. Put in card draw. Spell-slingers are not scary anymore once they don't have cards in hand. Ramp. The faster you have access to a bunch of mana, the faster you are to winning. Lastly, put in some cards that give you something when casting a bunch of spells. I guess that is it. All I can say for now is that our mono red deck is a check on our list. We can put Imodane now on our list, so that's 1 down, 31 to go. It's a very long way still, and I hope you guys are there in the journey. Thank you guys so much for watching. I have put the deck list in the description below for you to check out. Don't forget to check out RedManaMadness EB store. Bye and have a great time.